Oh my, if that's true though, then this is so stupid. They just have the same last name. Alright, which would finish up that tree. So now I gotta um but if this is an update, maybe this is baby. Is there a new left? Oh well, it could be in here. Except it's not, so it could be wrong. Let's just ignore that for now. Need to find out more about this dude. Is that Cubans? Cicely, Worktime, Stewart, Clementine, Billy Sims. The infamy list from Los Angeles. Basket Baby of 1950. Mentioned that in 1950, a gospel singer named Mary once found herself dealing with a real-life baby Moses situation. They left a baby on her doorstep. According to the site, she adopted him without question. He became known as the Basket Baby. Her son, Mark, who would later be known as Crocodile Clementine. Okay, so that was really useless. Mark Clementine Pilot, baby. Pilot. LA. Los Angeles. Okay, well. Maybe okay, let me delve deeper into this then. Spider search basket baby. Actually just shows the same thing. Okay. Crocodile Clementine. If I search Mark Clementine, it's the same. San Diego. Billy Sims. Why is it Billy? What is his name then? Like, jeez. Pretty much every news trustworthy tabloid seemed to have their own take on the altercation. It wasn't the cap. Instead, it was Billy Sims' matter-of-fact response to the threat and his comments afterwards. I don't understand what I'm. News Time did a piece about it. Okay. Awesome. Jeez Louise. Sims' wife, Carla. They hunted down Colleen Webb, Mark's ex-wife. Alright, there we go. Alright. Colleen Webb. Web. Sure. He met when he worked for an airline. She worked in an airport newsstand. He was a drinker and would often have wild when he was charged with the assault and lost his job. They divorced. The time that she was pregnant with their second daughter, and she felt the need to get out before things got worse. She left him and moved to San Diego to live with her sister, and told her oldest that her dad had to fly planes for the army. She raised them both by herself, and although she never went through the trouble of changing their names, legally they used the web name so that nobody would connect them to her ex-husband. Uh, Never changed their name legally, so I guess these are Clementines as well. Clementine. And this is Clementine. Uh, 1975. And she was pregnant. 24 years? Which doesn't really line up, actually. uh, um, because that would mean at minimum 23. Okay. T. Do they have anything? They're a trashy tabloid. Clementine. Sure. Billy Sims, they did a report on it. You gain a few new bits of information, though it might not be useful. Oh, great. Billy Sims was arrested for throwing a Molotov cocktail. Great. Tostarito Jacobson. Mary. Okay. Mary. Sure. That doesn't give us a picture. Tostarito Jacobson is a... That's a name. That's Fuego's a Fiesta. That offered free meals for life to anybody who... Lucinda Jacobson. Okay. There we go. Lucinda Jacobson. Fuego's Fiesta. Yeah, of course. Lucinda Tostarito. Lucinda Jacobson. Just why else would I talk about who paid this? Billy Sims. Okay. Tostarito Jacobson. Lucinda Jacobson. Didn't show up anywhere else. Tostarito Jacobson. Lucinda Jacobson. Okay. What the? Edith and her sister Lucinda were arrested. Edith's sister Lucinda. I like how this is an old page, but it's actually more relevant than it should be. um, Helen Roottree and Lucinda Jacobson. She was 18. Edith and her sister were a miracle congregation, Butler County. They were pretending to be church employees in churches that housed the type. They were caught by Helen Roottree, who was there the time while her husband Miracle was away preaching. Helen Roottree was quoted as saying, "Jesus forgives, and so do we." What? Was he married to? Oh, Helen Lennon, yeah. Edith Jacobson was Roottree Jr., or Miracle Jr.'s wife. And Edith's sister is Tostarito. Somehow. Somehow this is important. Is there anything about Edith? Same thing. Cinda. Mm. No. This one. Tostarita Jacobson. Cinda Jacobson. Okay. Web on the web. She's a travel agent now. Alright, sure. Corporate composition photography. It appears to no longer exist. Great. Val, the former head photographer, did a Q&A with users. And one of the questions, however, that Val was on the cover of Telephoto. Yes, fine. Jeez. Val does not wish to answer from his photojournalism days. LBP. I mean, it must be Lauren's bra and panties. Let me just. How did you think this would be related to your search exactly? Lincoln baby photography. This must be it. So funny. It was really funny. How did you think this? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, holy crap! That is, wow, holy, yeah, that is woof. I don't know what to say about that, but that is impressive. Val Lincoln. Although I guess it's in quotes. His name might not be Val. I got a new thing though. Val Lincoln. Clementine. Is military in here? The military is in here. He got lucky when a photographer. Most people wouldn't call it lucky to go to an active war zone for no pay. All my meals and even pulled some strings so we could rush my passport. Val was only 19 at the time. Lisa Clementine. That gives me 3. So I need one more to check to see if any of these are right. Which puts me over on this side. She agreed to become Mrs. Lincoln. Boop, 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 boop. Lisa Lincoln. She runs a support group for fellow veterans. She makes another appearance, listed as professor at West Point. Okay, so she's actually professor now. Professor. Her short biography. She had a passion for military. Erroneously believing that a family member was an Air Force pilot. She joined Roottree, returning from Desert Storm. Desert Saber. Large operation Gulf War. Gulf War period. Yeah. Okay, that didn't give me anything. This is all fine then. Which means we're back over to here to D-bag. I love screwing my staff. Hudson. Mm. Pictoti. I think the only thing that's going to show up for Guy Hudson, though, is the toy fish one that I can. Zach would be retiring, and Guy would be taking over at the start of 1978. Oh, that's Madsen Jr., Christine Farroa. Christine Farroa. It's no longer listed amongst, but a Christine Garland has been hired. I mean, that would make these Garlands, right? Um, Madsen was hired. Gordon retirement party. Edward Roottree, Elizabeth Cravensworth, and Lloyd Carpenter. Elizabeth Cravensworth. Raffertoons. Instead it reducts to a site with a telephone number called 1010-250. You managed to close them, but it sure is annoying. Let's search it. Okay. Okay, so that didn't really help. Albert Cross and Fred Cross. Christine Garland. Beatrice Watts. Thomas Green, Michael Caine, Elizabeth Farroa. Emily Seinfeld. Robert Logan. William Sams. Susan Ford, I already did. Terry O'Connor. Douglas Rosenberg. Edward Morrison. Robert Andrews. Corinne Schwartz. Linda Lewis, Angela Ingram, Lisa Lewis, and Valerie Ewing. Catherine Garrett. Catherine Garrett. Steve Farroa. Elizabeth Cravensworth. Dorf Dove donation. I already searched that one. Miss Rosenberg. Garrett. Julie Ingram. Work time temp. Victor Logan. Stuart Todd. Amy Sutton. Sugar plum. Strawberry. Chigua. butterscotch, caviar, Fred Gleason, clothing reimbursement. So he spent a lot of time traveling 1979. If that means anything. Guy Hudson, Australia. Australia. China. Considering one of them is fucking Guy Hudson. Jigua, which is Chinese, right? For watermelon. Guy Hudson, Brazil. France. Of course not. Paris. Doesn't really say who went with who, though. Where? We know that Susan Ford was the interpreter. So, I mean, yeah, she must have gone on these. But besides that, it's like, okay, not at all useful. Hmm. Antonelli's. Whoa. Let me just yell at Spider Search here. Stephen Garland. Okay, and Antonelli's. Steve Garland. The second is for months later. A listing phrase we can call gourmet for the groovy. Jeez. The third was from and is titled Keep an Eye on His Son. It seems that a local author by the name of Mark Zimmer was sued by Garland after Garland saw Zimmer promoting his book Kitchen Tales on television. The article mentions that although recipes are hard to copyright, Garland accompanied it with short fiction about how he learned it. They usually develop a way to remember certain ingredients. Making a trade with a gnome. Okay. Mark Zimmer. Kitchen Tales was story. Book released. One book collector states that the publishers were unprepared for the demand. If you switch out the salt water for a mix of 2/3 spring water and 1/3 filtered seawater, it tastes great. Sounds awful. And I don't know why that was necessary. What's in this? Yeah, the plated loaf. For years, two bakers, Flora and Yates, flirted. She loved his salt and pepper beard. He adored her rosemary cheeks. They thought sweetly about one another, but he was one day whisked away, conscripted to bake the army's bread. By the oil of the lamp, Flora's tears began to salt her bread. By yeast, or flour, yeast, sugar, olive oil, rosemary, salt, and water, add the mixture. Seemingly, Flora's unique dough had earned her a position as the king's personal baker. Yates had found success as well. He baked for kingdom's 45 diplomats. One day they returned from the Dutch Isles with a gift, 450 unbaked loaves. Teach a method that required no kneading. Upon seeing Yates, Flora was both delighted and distraught. She had not been made aware of the gift and had already prepared buns for the palace ovens. She wished to greet Yates warmly, but it was struck by fears. He'd be unable to bake with her, that she'd face retribution for being unprepared. She cried to Yates, adding more salt to her dough. Yates eased her pain. He insisted she had no obligation to prepare for a return she thought impossible. But he shared her fear of retribution. He knew that they did not solve her predicament. They missed their final chance to bake together. Thus was born the plated loaf. They traveled for 45 years and settled down for 15 more. Flora and Yates. Kitchen Tales. Garnishing the Truth. Garland and Zimmer. It didn't show up for Zimmer. Garnishing the Truth. But searching it, Garland and Zimmer. So, okay, well, Steve Garland. Garnishing the Truth. The second is James and Robert. Incredible Chefs. Okay, so these are both cooks. One is James and one is Jeff. You proved my sterling approach could be popular. Without you, this book couldn't exist. I first met Steve in 1978 when he taught cooking. The next time was over a decade when he was suing me for stealing his recipes. Well, it turns out Steve and I had more in common than we thought. Instead of settling, we settled at McCarran's brew house over a game of darts. And I agreed to make a ton of mother together rather than spend money on lawyers. Please buy our book. We need more money for when the free beer runs out, and the bookstore could probably use the sales. Famous people who had, including former President of the United States, Kennedy. That have mentioned McCarran. One of them is Garnishing the Truth. Local and regular Stevie G wrote a book about food. And grab his, his kids joined. Fry die. Just a front door and a very small interior with a window. Usually the restaurant only serves vegetables. Whoever runs the page seems to just link random sites. It has this wicked overrated. I saw it in Chef's Signature, so I went there. Is a magazine. And then I can search Chef's Signature for fry die. is the samosa cone. Perfect. Love it. Yummy. Can a vegetarian diet be trendy? James and Robert Garland. Still, the offerings are heavily inspired by the powerful spices in Thai and Indian food. Robert, who is 3 years younger than James. Robert. Wow, that's 4, but are they not chefs? I don't understand. My father was a chef. We met. I wrote a book that helped partially fund Fry Die. Uh, the flying cook ended up being less temperate than you hope, and she'd gone back to work as a secretary. In the diner where we worked, my dad had no room for experimenting, so he'd exercise his skills. Oh, these pictures are backwards. Okay, and that gives us Miracle's Infidelity.